Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. It's wonderful Wednesday once again with Don Anderson and Sunny Danforth. Say hello, Sunny.
Hey, I'm here. I got my Trump shirt on after the Trump sweep Tuesday.
Hey, it was
Trump terrific Tuesday, whatever you want to call it.
terrific. Tuesday was indeed terrific. It was awfully nice to wake up. I mean, it wasn't unexpected, but it's still awfully nice to get that validation. And I mean, it was a complete wipeout, too. So that was absolutely phenomenal.
It was, and I will tell you, it was interesting to see watching the news. I watched a little bit last night, and then this morning I watched again on Newsmax. They would show the voter turnout for Trump. I was looking at, of course, Trump versus Haley. Very interesting. She was anywhere from 8% to 19% that I saw.
Mhm,
So that's like Trump is like clean sweeping, right?
mhm.
And then I was looking at the voter turnout of the voters for Biden and the voters for Trump. And Trump was winning everywhere, and sometimes 2 to 1 or more, larger margins. And so I just went, well, then this is the primary, and people are generally a lower turnout on the primary. But I will say the Republicans, appeared that had a very good showing, and it's great to see. And Nikki Haley needed to get that message. She has now stepped down.
Mhm. Yeah, I did manage to hear a little bit of her speech, and she didn't. She made it very clear she wasn't endorsing Trump, which I
No,
thought was very interesting. She promised that she would endorse whoever was the winner, but now she's not endorsing Trump, which it doesn't surprise any of us. I mean, just endorse Biden and be done with it. I mean, those are the people who are supporting
right?
him.
That's who voted for her.
Right, right, exactly. So, it's she calls herself a conservative, and it's just like, wow, like on what planet is she a conservative?
Well, and she says, "I wish him well."
Hmm.
That's what that was her sentiment. I wish him well.
Hmm.
And Trump, let's and it's anyway. I'm glad she's out of the picture. The Republicans now have we're concentrated on November,
Hmm.
and Trump. We still have the primaries going on, but we needed to be consolidated around Trump. And I still don't understand some conservatives that go, no, I just can't vote for him, because you can't argue with the results he had. Look at where we are as a nation today, Don.
And if you can't do that, look at the results we're getting. It's since he's not in office, it is not rational. It really isn't. I don't know that we've ever seen, and you could have said this about the last election, a more stark difference. To be a fence sitter in an election like this means that you're a person that doesn't have any values, because these are two very polar opposite candidates. No matter how you slice it, what decision is there to be made?
Yeah. And
It,
I'm seeing some of the comments here. We don't want to see her in the Trump administration. Truthfully, I don't think we will see her anywhere near the Trump administration. And, Nikki, she was her own worst enemy in doing what she did, going back on her word. When you have the statement, oh, I would never run against President Trump, and then I'm running for president, you know,
you,
and
you,
people can change their mind, but when you make that statement, that's something you have to live with.
Well, you know how the swamp works. She'll be well paid for her efforts. So
Yes,
I
you
don't
will.
think you need to cry any tears for
No,
her.
no, you
she'll
you've
turn
got
up in
that
some
right. It'll
she'll
be
turn up in some private firm getting paid a fortune, like she did before.
yes, yes. So, but I'm glad that she's out now, that people can just concentrate on Trump, supporting Trump, helping Trump, and how we can everything that we need to do to turn this nation around.
Mhm. And speaking to that, I thought that the other night I was just thinking about what foundationally, what fundamentally is wrong here, and I hadn't written in a while, and so I scribbled down some thoughts, and Sonny's giving me permission here to kind of give you a sense of what those thoughts are. So I'll just take like maybe 1 minute to give them to you. And basically, they're this: I call it the impact of the moral code. And I was remember a writing I did a while back around the fact that the average city, if you look at the ratio of cops to citizens, basically is one cop for roughly every 20,000 citizens. This is on average across the country. So if you have and that's not including the administrative people, but people who are on the beat, right? So at any given point in time, one cop for every 20,000 people. That means there's five cops for a city of 100,000, and there's like maybe 50 for a city of a million. Now, if you stop to think about that, there's no way that that cop is going to be able to enforce the law. So the reality is, this system works. This free market capitalist system works. We have freedom because most people do the right thing when nobody's looking. Another factoid: you look at most big box retailers, pilferage rate is about 3%. That means 97% of people aren't stealing. So that whole system works because most people are doing the right thing most of the time, except for places like San Francisco and Portland. And we see what happens there. It doesn't work. The stores leave, and now you can't even shop. So the only reason the system works is because people do the right thing when nobody's looking. And one of the things the left does is, what's the first thing they attacked? They attacked the moral code, they attack morality, they attack Judeo Christianity, which is the foundation for all of this working in the first place. And they attack the delivery system for bringing that morality, which is the family. And you look around and you see this is how Marxism destroys a country. You first start by destroying the family, destroying the moral code. You got chaos. The only way that you can enforce law when people won't behave is you have to have a dictatorship and a police officer in every room, which is precisely what you had in places like East Germany, Romania. You had the Stasi, the KGB. That's why they have to have those places to function. And it just kind of hit me, wow, what a special place it is we have, and why it's so important that we put up this fight that we're fighting, which is a great segue into, and I'll let you kind of direct them, Sonny, to the link to a couple of podcasts that we sent your way. Which the first one is with a guy named Woodson, who's on the Phil Donahue show, and that's one of the links, right?
Yep.
That's out there. Yeah. So if you all get a chance to look at that, I think you'll find that absolutely fascinating. Woodson is a Black historian who's been around forever. He's born in 1937. I had a history class, and his text was the foundational basis to that. But he gives a talk on the Dr. Phil show, which I thought was kind of a liberal show where he's kind of a liberal guy, and and it's the kind of thing I'm not going to be able to stomach. But it was really good, and people were listening. It was respectful. It was like a throwback to the 70s when people like Phil Donahue would have speakers come on. Even if you didn't disagree with them, you'd hear them out. But he has these people's attention, and he's basically speaking to, we don't have, and the topic was about reparations. And his whole approach was basically what we have is it's not a racial issue. What we have is a collapse in the moral code. And that's specifically what he spoke to. So I thought that you would all find that very interesting. And then I'll make one last statement. That's about the other link, which was to what life looked like in Harlem in the 1930s and 40s. And there's a video of just people interacting in Harlem in the 30s and 40s. And you can't even believe how far we've descended. And this kind of fits together with this whole moral code. People are dressed up, they're polite, people of all races are interacting. It's like unbelievable. And I'll stop there.
No, you don't need to stop. And I mean, first of all, I have to say, I don't give you permission to talk about anything. You have that platform, my friend.
Well, thank you very much.
But Don sent these links to me today, and I looked at them and I went, oh gosh, people don't dress like that anymore. I like it. I really enjoyed this video of Harlem, and also the video with Dr. Phil, and like you, and it's with David Rubin is bringing this up.
That's right.
In here. And Dr. Phil has not been a program. I've seen it a few times, and not too terribly, not many times, but a few times over the years. And, he actually, it's surprising me very much that Dr. Phil is speaking out on the transgender issue regarding children. And this is pleasant, this story, because of going back to reparations. I thought this professor is very well spoken, and I like it. So I absolutely encourage people to watch it. It's frankly, it's common sense, which we don't have, Don.
Yeah, it's a right. Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Well, it's again, it's a direct tie. What you're looking at, if you were to look at a video of what goes in Harlem now versus a video from the 40s, all you can speak say to yourself is that's a direct reflection of the breakdown in the moral code.
Yeah.
Back then you had both parents, you had people working, you didn't have men leaving their families and abandoning their children. Most importantly, you didn't have a welfare state that replaced the dad with a paycheck. None of that stuff was in existence, and it was President Johnson's war on poverty, which was really a war on the family, that created all of this. And starting then, the illegitimacy rate in the black community was at roughly what it was like 10-12% in 1960. Now it's like 80% in the inner city. White illegitimacy rate in 1960 was around 5%. Now it's like 40%. And from there, everything else gets destroyed. Um, and it's just fascinating to see the physical manifestation of what they've done. One of his comments that he said that I'd never heard before, I thought it was a brilliant like phrase, if you will. When whites were at their worst, blacks were at their best. And that's what you had back then. So you couldn't go to a hotel, you created your own hotel business. You couldn't do sports, you created your own sports business. You couldn't get cosmetics, you created your own business back then. And the more you beg for these reparations, the more you destroy your internal self-esteem and ability to do things on your own, the more
Mhm.
you rely on the government, which is precisely what the left and what Marxism is about. So it's just fascinating how, you know, he ties all that together. I made some leaps of my own
Yes.
there, but yeah,
So along this topic, Bobby Richardson is asking, what are our views on on DEI?
it's Marxist. That's the short version. It's just flat Marxist. I
I
mean,
concur.
yeah, it's one more step towards getting you to view people instead of viewing them as individuals, as viewing them as part of some group. So whether that group is LGBTQ, whether that group is black, white, Asian, Hispanic, whatever it is instead of looking at a person in terms of the content of their character, you're going to measure that person in terms of what they look like, and then make decisions on who you hire, who you relate to, who that person is, based on what they look like. That's 100% what DEI is about. Um,
And
you know, yeah,
the left for years has been very good at putting people in a box,
hmm
trying to we want everybody has to be a special group and have a special title, okay, and have a special issue. And so they want to, that's a way of dividing. That's a way of dividing our nation. That, for we have the civil rights movement in this country, and and out of that came a unity that we've had for a long time. I've enjoyed it in my life, the unity that I don't feel, you know, uh, just going back a few years ago, someone had said, talking about systemic racism in this country. And I'm going, I don't think there's systemic racism in this country. It's not that I've seen or experienced. Maybe I'm wrong,
no,
but
you aren't wrong. This is a gigantic lie. Things are better from a race relations standpoint than they've ever been right now. They're trying to paint this picture. They're trying to make their best. I think it was, I can't think of the name of the activist from back in the turn. So I'm drawing a blank on the name, but anyway, he calls them race hustlers, basically. And if there's no racism, then the race hustling business will come to an end. It was not George Washington Carver, but it was one of the guys from that time period. Basically, made that prediction back in the 1920s that these people will never stop, and that's precisely what you see. Because beginning in around the year 2000, this issue's been pretty much put to bed as best as it can be ever put to bed.
well, that's what I thought. Okay. But, I'm only one perspective.
Mhm.
And, but it's not what I was seeing. And so you might see it differently. I don't know. So I'm glad that you feel it was put to bed as well. It's taken a long time in our nation to do that. And now, and the Democrats are working overtime to try to undo that, and like Black Lives Matter and George Floyd, that was all race baiting crap, quite
Yeah.
frankly.
But for Marxism to work, it thrives on division, and it
Hmm.
thrives on hatred, and it thrives on people thinking that the pie is limited, and you got to get your slice from somebody else rather than creating your own slice. That's what it thrives on. And what they're looking to do is to create that kind of an atmosphere
Hmm.
so the government is seen as a solution, and individuals acting on their own can't be that solution.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is sort of a good segue on the demise or the downfall of the moral code of talking about Fannie Willis.
Ooh.
Okay. The Georgia attorney, Fannie Willis, has been going after Trump. Well, today, this morning, I had the opportunity to I was watching Fox News, and they were holding over in Georgia, the legislature is having a case. The legislators are investigating basically Fannie Willis. And so Trump's the attorney, Ashley Merchant, is speaking. She is the co-defendant's attorney, and she was talking about what they have found. And I will tell you, the chair of that meeting. I'm trying to find his name here. He was asking very, very, very good questions. I gotta tell you. But a bomb that she dropped today, she dropped several, but one that's a big one is she said, Fannie Willis went to the city council essentially, and because she is the district attorney for Atlanta,
Mhm.
she went to the city council and said, I need more money. Ran out of money in my budget. She asked for $5 million to prosecute homicides and sexual assault. So they gave her that money, but instead she used it to investigate the 2020 election. And so, and the legislators going, what? What? So what? How does she defend that? And Miss Merchant said, well, she says that once she receives the money, it is up to her as to how it's going to be spent. And it was
Mhm.
to hire 66, I believe the number was 66 um, employees. And so they were going to hire 66 employees, not making a contract.
Mhm.
Okay. And so she clearly, from what Miss Merchant said, she clearly misstated, did not present her case truthfully or honestly to the city council that gave her the funding. And then with that funding, she made a contract. Something else that came out, she talked a lot about the emails that went back and forth, and that their relationship between Willis and Wade started in 2019.
Mhm.
And Wade's former business partner had talked about that, but then he retracted his statement when he got on the under oath at the
Mhm.
witness stand. Well, so they asked questions. Well, how did, the questioning was, if we have text data, she says, well, through all the FOIA information that we've done, and she explained a lot. She says, yeah, we have all of these texts. And she says, I tried to just showing screenshots as to why we knew that they were in a relationship, but
Mhm.
they wanted to see the whole thread. So by golly, now they get to see it all. But this speaks to the moral decay.
Mhm.
You know,
Oh,
this is not about justice. This is about political persecution, political prosecution, and election interference for the sake of what?
yeah, and you think to yourself that someone with the moral background of this person, I mean,
Hmm.
she's destroyed them. She's just actively destroyed a marriage, paid this person's husband off like what 600 grand to do a job that he had never done before, in terms of being a trial lawyer,
Yep.
with taxpayers' money. It's unbelievable. And you think about as recently as what? Remember in the 80s, I think it was Senator Gary Hart got in trouble for having a relationship on with this person out, same kind of a thing. And these people were disqualified. Or you think about Senator Ted Kennedy, who the Chappaquiddick scandal basically doomed him from ever being president. And people like this now, that's not even considered like that's like a side issue that she's had
Mhm.
this going on. When you are willing to do those kinds of immoral things, that disqualifies you from the public trust, or at least it used to.
Well, and
Unreal.
for me, it still does. I believe that it's an absolute conflict of interest, and I also think that she should be disbarred, along with Wade and his partner.
Mhm.
If you are willing, although he said, "Well, I don't remember. I was just speculating," but yet Miss Merchant showed the text messages from him, and she said, "So you're confirming that they started their relationship in whatever 2019?" And he said, "Absolutely. That is
Yeah.
not speculation. That is absolutely." And so she then confirmed it from other sources, right? Whatever what he was saying.
Mhm.
And if we have to have rule of law and we have to have ethics.
Well,
And
the
that
decent
is the moral fiber of our country. It's of Christian moral fiber, right?
yeah, you've got to have some, you got to have some code. That's all. And
Yeah,
the decent thing to do for this person, you think would just like step down. Really, that would be the
yeah.
decent thing to do.
Well, it
Um,
would be, but I don't see her doing that. Maybe she'll prove me wrong, but I don't see her doing that. So going along with the morals and ethics, the next thing we have, a story that I came across is, and this is from the Epic Times. After a pause, the DOJ is now sharply increasing the January 6 arrests.
Wow, more. They're just gonna they're gonna work that club as long as they can. I mean, what kind of amazes you is that the more, and which is just an indirect way of prosecuting Trump, of course, and an indirect
Yep,
way of
yep.
denying people the ability to vote for someone. That's what this is really all about. At the end of the day, those poor people are just victims of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. But that's essentially what this is about, and they're going to keep playing that right up to the election, apparently.
Well, they
Even
are.
though
And
it's not working,
what?
even though it's not working, it does not appear to be working.
No, it isn't, but it's to instill fear, Don, as you well know. It is to instill fear in the citizens of this country because in England they just sentenced a guy for a meme, a cartoon, a
Yeah,
meme
yeah.
for I believe he was sentenced to 10 years. Don't quote me on that, but I believe it was 10 years. I'm just going from memory. And there was recently in the last few years, a fellow arrested for praying
Mhm,
outside, one person praying outside an abortion clinic.
mhm.
We're being attacked on many levels, and January 6th is another one, and those people are hostages.
Yeah.
So they're saying in this article, the DOJ is making arrests and filing charges at its quickest pace in 3 years, pushing the expected total up to 2,150 arrests by 2026.
Wow. That you would think that this would ever happen in the United States. It is
I know.
absolutely, but it is, and that's what we're up against.
And it says in the past 2 months, 93 people have been arrested and charged, according to the DOJ.
Mhm.
And it is hard to imagine that this is happening in our country. It is outrageous that to go to a it was absolutely a peaceful protest, that was then it was a false flag event. We now know there were government operators, FBI, whatever agency, alphabet agency was in the crowd dressed as Trump supporters and speaking and inciting, let's go in there. There's video. I'm not speaking anything new.
Mhm.
There is so much. And then remember the director of the FBI under oath or in front of the Congress says, I don't know how many. I can't answer how many were in there. Well, now we know it's over 200. I believe it was over 200.
Yeah,
And this was a false flag operation, and people, there was never an insurrection. This was not a violent issue, but they turned it violent.
mhm,
They fired tear gas and rubber bullets on the citizens.
sure.
They were moving the fencing for the citizens to walk into the room, into the building,
Mhm.
and it was all a setup to stop the vote at the critical time. And the discussion, not stopping the vote, but stopping the discussion of the evidence of voter fraud. And so this is weaponization of our government against us.
Sure. Well, it's brilliant. Remember Sun Tzu's famous book, the Art of War. It's
Yeah.
straight out of Sun Tzu's book, and I think the first line. I'm not going to quote this precisely, but Sun Tzu's first concept is the height of brilliance in war is to beat the enemy without ever fighting them, and that's precisely what's happening here. Um, our enemies, eh, definitely the Chinese, but
Yeah.
uh, but they are being leveraged by our own our own government to do this.
Yes, they are. And so, it's astonishing to me. When I saw this headline, I just went, "Holy cow.
You know? Because
Holy."
I always maintain the majority of the citizens are not like that. It's the people. Government. Think of government as a big pile of cow dung, right? And a cow dung attracts one thing; it attracts flies, right? And there's nothing that the immoral elites love more than a big giant pile of money in one spot. And so it attracts those kinds of people. The general citizen is not attracted to that stuff. So that small percentage of very smart, very powerful, hyper elite people flock to this stuff, and they love power. What they love more than money is power.
Mhm.
And that's what they're about. And we've let the pile of dung get too big, in this case, money, in one spot. This is one of the reasons why small government is so important. This is one of the reasons why, when the founders devised the country, the concept of division, small pieces. That's why you have 50 different states. That's why you have three different functions of government: legislative, judicial, executive. They wanted to make it as hard as possible for any one group of people to control all the levers of power, right? Um, but uh, but they've managed to find a way to almost pull it off. Um, all of the major corporations, or most of them, the levers of power, this whole educational system, particularly with the college level, where
Yeah.
people have turned over the raising of their kids to these communists without realizing it. So by the time you do realize it, they're 30 years old, and how do you fix it? That's what we're up against, sports fans.
Yeah, so here we are. We're arresting citizens that attended a that peacefully protested, and we are releasing illegal aliens into our country that are flooding across the border. We're even flying them. If you didn't hear the news today,
I did.
right there, Biden has flown in 2023 over 300,000 people across the border into the United States, saying, well, we were relieving the stress at the border. And
Well,
I mean,
the
arrest the man.
the one good news about all of this, as bad as it seems, is it's clear who the enemy is now. The left used to muddy the
100%.
waters, and they used to hide and pretend like they were Americans and all of that sort of thing. Now it's very clear who the enemy is. It's these intellectual elites, and they got to go.
Yes, and it's it's interesting that even though Mark Levin has written a book, The Democrats Hate America,
Mhm.
and it's right. They're trying to destroy America.
Mhm.
So when you have a Democrat legislator and you're talking with a Republican legislature, well, we'll go negotiate. I haven't seen a negotiation yet that is, and here in Oregon, because the Democrats are in the majority, they say, well, we're going to try to make it so it's not so bad. That's what the Republicans say. We're going to try to make it so it's not so bad. And I guess you have to do what you can, but I find that just kind of hard to swallow. You
Yeah,
know, how difficult it is to be in the minority party and just get marched over. But in Oregon, it seems to me that there has always been a few Republicans that just vote with the Democrats, vote to get it out of committee. Maybe they don't vote for it on the floor, but they'll get it out of committee so that it can pass. Because once a bill gets out of committee, then it's the Democrats, they can just do it, right?
yeah,
Um,
and it's tough. Hey, it's tough to be that person who's not going to be liked. I think a lot of the problem we have is these Republicans that go in there, and some of them might have good intentions, but they fall into the trap of wanting to be liked. And the only way you're gonna be liked by the wrong people is to cave in and bend over with them, and that's
right.
how we wind up with the Romneys and the McCains of the world.
You
Um,
know, I used to have a great representative, Greg Barretto. I'm in House District 57, and um, he was, or actually, he wasn't in my district. He was in 58. I stand corrected. I do live in 57, but he was in 58. And he said, "I'm going to be like 3 terms." And he was ostracized for not bringing home the bacon,
mhm,
you know. But you know what? He did what he felt is the best interest. He
mhm.
says, "I'm not selling my vote. It's not for sale." And he was upholding his morals and his ethics, and we need people that are willing to do that and do what's in the best interest of our state as a whole, and
Mhm.
standing up to going, you know, no, I'm just not going there. I'm not playing that go along to get along game and
Well,
whatnot.
we
um
heard we heard the recording with Carrie Lake, like getting bribed on video,
right,
and
right.
and the thing is how many Carrie Lakes are there? How many people are willing to walk away from those millions? I mean, I guarantee you that what's her name who just turned down who just quit running for president against Trump? I'm
Right.
guaranteeing you that conversation probably went a different way with her.
I'm
Uh,
sure. I'm sure.
uh,
100%. I would just about bet. And speaking of a candidate that could be like Carrie Lake, I just met one last night who's going to be running for House District 57. And his name is Raymond Akers. I'm going to be having him here on Captive Audience in a couple of weeks.
mhm,
But so, you know, he says he says, we need to we need to change how things are done. And if we
mhm,
don't have people that are willing to run, that are willing to help make those changes, we're not going to get there.
mhm,
So I really like that. I enjoyed meeting him. He spoke to our central committee last night, and I'll say was very well received. But
mhm,
I'm going to post a story here. We're talking about, Oregon politics. And this story is Stop from the Oregon Catalyst, Stop the Wyden Smith Tax Bill. And the headline is The Senate Should Stop, Reject the Wyden Smith Tax Bill. And so this is from Representative Jason Smith and Senator Ron Wyden have crafted a Tax Relief for American Families and Workers Act of 2024.
mhm,
And the Wall Street Journal article notes that the bill starts with something that both parties want, a simple extension of the business tax credits that are set to expire in 2025 from the original 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. This tax extension should easily pass on its own. However, the liberals are trying to add to the deal a way to pay people for not working by expanding the child tax credit to people who are not working or paying taxes. This could cost $650 billion over 10 years, according to the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget. And paying people more to not work is estimated to draw away 700,000 more people out of the workforce,
Mhm.
according to the American Enterprise Institute. You know,
And more
this
importantly,
is,
buy more Democratic voters.
oh, exactly. Exactly. And, you know, we're having a labor shortage as it is. And yes, we've got illegals flooding in. And I have heard Democrats, clips of Democrats saying, but, you know, we need these people to help fill these jobs. No, you don't. Ship them all out of here and quit paying people for sitting on their can.
Yeah, but that's not the objective. It fits two objectives. Number one, it buys more current citizens to turn them into like welfare rats. Number one, and number two, it buys an opportunity to bring more immigrants in to buy more left wing pro government voters. That's the whole. It's a beautiful strategy, and they get to sound benevolent on top of that. And it takes a lot of courage to take those accusations that you know are coming your way from being a cold, heartless person, but that's precisely the kind of candidates we need are people who are willing to catch those arrows to do what is right.
Yeah, so contact your representatives because we want to stop this and say no. So that's why I wanted to bring that up. Stop the Wyden Smith tax bill, and anything that has Wyden's name on it, you want to absolutely stop, right? I mean, that's like a given. That's just
and
a given. Jason
that's a
Smith, I don't know who he is, but if he's joining with Wyden, I say no.
and maybe I'm being too harsh when I say this, but I'm like, what middle ground is there? Like you were talking earlier about,
Right.
how do you work with these people who are sworn enemies of the sworn enemies of the republic? It's like Israelis, negotiating with Palestinians. They want you dead. What's there to negotiate? That I
That's a
think
fact.
that's
That's a
where we
fact.
are. That's
Yeah.
just where we are.
Yep. So another story is from the Oregon Catalyst again, and Senator Bonham is this. It's he has made a statement. He says, "Why no business is safe in Oregon," and this was actually on Sunday. But when I saw this, I thought this is important. I don't know if Kevin talked about it Monday or Tuesday, but I think Tuesday he was talking about Super Tuesday, and which was exciting to see. Oh boy! But this has to do with basically the Pac-Man effect of larger healthcare buying up smaller healthcare, because the bill is it's a bill that says the House passed a bill 4130, and this is a path to single payer healthcare monopoly
Hmm.
is what this is. And so they want to, it says a bill the majority party wants you to think will simply remove corporations out of the healthcare system, but what they won't tell you is the bill will ultimately limit access to healthcare by decreasing the amount of healthcare options in the state. Specifically, House Bill 4130 requires all officers of a professional corporation, except the secretary and treasurer, to be licensed in the Oregon Medical Board or Oregon State Board of Nursing. In theory, it doesn't sound that bad, but in practice, this has severe unintended consequences as Oregon business climate has gradually made it harder for doctors to run their own practices.
Well, sure.
So,
That's the objective. Yeah, we can't directly, create a state-run health system. So what we'll do is we'll set up things so that the corporations essentially work for the government. That's called fascism, if I recall. That's how they did it in Italy. That's what they're looking to do here. That's the
yes,
Oregon strategy.
it is. And so, I'm not aware of what that business climate model has been put on, or onto the medical, having a clinic, okay, versus a hospital having a clinic. But here it says in here, we don't need BlackRock deciding whether you get a hip or a heart transplant,
Mhm.
you know. But this bill's not that. The singularly creates will it creates will remove small physicians' opinions to
Mhm.
stay in business, wiping out patient choice and paving the way for big business.
Yeah, and that's always the objective, because if you can get rid of what you don't want is a lot of little players. What you want is a handful of big players, because you can control them. That's one of the reasons why the Democratic Party hates small business.
And part of it is by having less choice, eventually it's easier for the state to go, well, we'll just do state run.
Sure.
We'll take it all over and we'll do state run, be it state or federal or whatnot.
Yeah.
So
And people will be
that,
more amenable to it because a handful of big ones is going to perform very badly. And then people will want that fixed. Well, we'll fix it. We'll just make it in the one system. As opposed to
yeah.
the solution really is to have a ton of choices.
So, Marjorie, I'm having a hard time understanding that too. But when they're saying it's the bigger companies are swallowing up the smaller ones, and it's making it harder for the smaller clinics to be in business, for a doctor to go, I want to have my own private practice, and it is so tough to have it. That is never good for society. Absolutely. That's the easy way of trying to understand that. We have a little bit
Or
of
maybe
good
I'm frozen.
news, though. We have a good news, and that is out of the Epic Times. I'm going to post this one too. And it is a judge rules Arizona law requiring proof of citizenship uh, is not discriminatory. And that is very good news, because you know what? You have to have you have to have ID for everything,
Well,
right? You can't
get
rent
your
a
head around
car,
that.
you can't get a bank account. You you
Yeah.
to you can't you have to have ID for everything, So this is really, really, really good.
But think we reached a place where we had to have a judge say that. This is like
Right?
the obvious. You have to be a citizen of the country to participate in the country. I mean, can you imagine going to Mexico and demanding that you got government goods and services, or any other country? It just wouldn't happen for you.
Yeah.
So,
So if you're going to vote in Arizona, I think you're going to have to provide proof of American citizenship, and that's a good thing.
that is a
I
very good
think that's a good thing.
thing. Mhm.
To provide that. It's we are a sovereign nation, and a state can make their decisions based on that. I love it. I thought that was great news.
Well, I tell you, if you want, just as an interesting aside, I didn't provide an article on this, but start following along with what's going on in Sweden. Sweden's had these wide open borders, and this used to be considered the safest country in Europe. And in the
Yes.
last like 10 years, they are now like the second highest murder rate in Europe. And they are besides themselves. I mean, there's gunshots at night. It sounds like, it sounds like New York City in Sweden now. And it's just like horrendous. They're having all kinds of crimes. And the vast majority of it is they brought in these immigrants who are culturally not a fit. Too many, too fast, and it's an absolute disaster. And now they're having to deal with it. And who knows if it's too late. But
They're
that's
saying they're going to do mass deportation.
yeah, they're going to have to. It's the
Yeah.
only solution to saving the culture.
Yeah, it is. And talking also, back here in the United States about the invasion, Governor of New York today made the announcement. The National Guard, she's putting 1,000 National Guard in the subway system to check your bags, because people are getting knifed, gunned down, and they're trying to. And it showed some videos when I saw this story of
Mhm.
just somebody slapping somebody that's on the subway, and it's gone too far. And I told my mom this morning when I saw this, I was having coffee and watching the news of what's going on, and I said, well, let's see, the election's coming up, so they got to make New York a little bit safer.
Yep. That's
You
it.
know?
Just like Portland. Suddenly it's clean and neat in Portland, right?
Yeah,
These
yeah,
people know what to do when there's San Francisco. Suddenly it's all cleaned up, right?
yeah,
But I think I do suspect that the left has finally offended the party that was its base constituency for so long because they put it right in their face. You think about this used to be the party of blue collar workers, right? You look at what they've done to auto workers and people like that. You look at what they've done to manufacturing base. You look at what they've done to the folks in the inner city that supported them pretty much no matter what. And now they're losing their playgrounds, they're losing their community centers, they're losing their schools to illegal immigrants. It's like insane. Um, and there's no getting around it. You made it the sanctuary city. You know
yep,
who did it. And now the results right in your face. It's not something you have to think about in order to determine what theoretically might happen. Now it's happened. We've taken away the police, which is what the left said you should do. And now
yep.
you're suffering the direct results of not having police around. Eventually, that converts into votes. And it's terrible that had to come to that, but that's a good thing.
Well, I'll tell you that you're absolutely right. And the best thing that Governor Abbott or any other governor that shipped the illegals up to the sanctuary cities and states so that they had to feel the pain. They had to feel the pain for what they said they wanted, you know, and is because, and yes, there's been a huge movement against let's not have the police, but they're having to bring the National Guard in, I believe, because you can't bring in that fast
Mhm.
more police. They have to go through academies and get certified and whatnot.
Well,
This is a
plus,
way of, it's gone so bad. They're going, okay, we have to do something. Maybe they're going to beef up the police force. I have no idea. But who would want to be a policeman
well,
in
that's the
New
thing.
York?
You've made being a policeman so unattractive that who would want
Yeah,
to go into that? I mean,
yeah,
you got to think to yourself, there's no way you'd become a police officer unless the entire administration changed. Um,
absolutely.
you just
I
wouldn't do
wouldn't
it.
want to.
Yeah. So they're having a heck of a time getting, the people who were really good, who could get close to retirement, they retired. The
Yeah,
ones who were younger, like, I got to do something else. I can't put any more time into this, right?
yeah.
And you feel sorry for the poor ones who are kind of stuck in that halfway point. It's like, and basically all they can do is, well, let's do what I can and not get in trouble, which is like nothing. You know,
Right, right. I know, I know.
isn't helpful either. So they've created the situation and now they got to sleep in it, right? You made the bed, now you got to sleep in it.
They do. And so I just went, oh, this is a win because it's kind of like, the governor of New York crying uncle. All right, it's so bad here. We now have to bring the National Guard in to help, help keep the citizens safe in New York City. Well,
Yeah.
Don, this has been a great night tonight. And thank you so much. And I really appreciated those stories that you brought forward very, very much.
Well, thanks so much, and I hope everybody else enjoys them as well. I found them to be great, and they're short too. It's not like they're super long, but I think
Yep.
you'd really enjoy those. So give
Oh
them a
yeah,
look.
those videos were like under 4 minutes each one. Um, I want to let everybody know that on Friday I'm doing a series on the candidates for House District 57. No, 50, yeah, 50, no, Senator Hansel's spot. Oh goodness, I'm getting confused. Sorry about that. Senator Hansel's spot. And so last week I had Dave Drotzman on, and Friday I will have Andy Huey on. So you will be just, come on in on Friday. We're going to be interviewing Andy Huey, and you'll get to meet him. So we'll see you Friday. Have a good day.
Good night, everybody. Thanks a lot.